Awesome. And everybody who's on the council, say hello. These are the people that you can get in touch with if you have any questions, any concerns. Let's see. Our agenda for tonight is going to be the motion that was passed via email, which it was motion 3. I'm starting to put numbers to any of the motions that we have per year, so it might be a little bit better to keep track of. It'll start off with the public comments, then we'll go to the motion, then our mission and vision for the year, and a bunch of projects that I've been wanting to work on for about almost 3 years now. So does anybody have any questions, concerns, or want to share anything?
Interesting
sound.
Jen?
Yes, I was wondering if you had a sign or anything to show how to raise your hand.
I do. Thank you for reminding me. So the way you can participate, if everybody would go ahead and just mute themselves, there is a speaking queue. So it's going to be first come, first serve. Non-board members are going to talk first. If you want to participate, just raise your regular hand or your virtual hand, or for those who are on the telephone, just say your name and then we'll put you in the queue. So again, does anybody have anything for public comments? Anybody want to share anything? No, we're good on public comments. All right. So motion 3 was we've got one more grant to do. It's a housing grant. Anand and Dennis are heading the team that are going to be working with the grant. One of the things is that was passed via email was that the Public Health and Safety Committee would be taking care of the grant. The wording a little bit was not where it was supposed to be. So I think that there was some suggestions that they wanted to amend some of the wording in it. And then Anand, I don't know if you know, but Jen came up with a pretty good idea for it too. Go ahead, Jen.
I was going to suggest that we create a subcommittee where Arnaud and Dennis will be on that committee to handle that particular project. What anyone else thinks about that, as opposed to the health safety committee.
So I have some concerns about that. For one thing, I don't think it's ever really good to have an even number on any kind of thing, even if it's just 2, because you can get deadlocks. So that's an issue. The other thing is one of the first things we have to do is go through all of the possible things that we might want to use for that grant. There's a great big list of it. I sent it out to everybody. And Gail suggested, I thought it was good, that we focus on the ones that are highest priority on the list by Oregon Health Authority. And then Dennis came up with a pretty good idea of being able to spend more of the money on things to help people by having somewhat less overhead if we can find organizations in town already doing some of that stuff that we can help contribute to. So I thought that was a great idea. Having said that, I also don't want to leave out the possibility that there are things that our particular community need that aren't obvious and aren't already being done. And the thing about that is, I think it's really important to have a diverse set of people looking into that, and not necessarily this tiny little bit, 2 white guys looking at it all by ourselves. and making those decisions, I think that might be a bit constricted. The Public Health and Safety Committee is currently 6 people. If we add Dennis, that'd be 7. I don't really think that's huge. Some people might disagree. But I think the idea of restricting it to just Dennis and myself as a subcommittee might be too restrictive. The other thing is, of course, if you start a separate subcommittee, you're going to have to find times when those people can meet, even if it is just the 2 of us. And most of us already have time dedicated to certain times and days that we're going to be meeting. That was one of the reasons that we tried to do the vote over the email. Initially, the vote was supposed to be at the general meeting, but we didn't have, or excuse me, the board meeting, but we didn't have time, even though the public health and safety meeting had been just previous to that. That's a really nice aspect too, in that the way it flows, we have the public health and safety meeting, and immediately afterward, there's the board meeting. So decisions can be made at the public health and safety meeting, and immediately flows into the board meeting, and things can be approved there immediately, which is a really nice thing. Now, if we change that and try to have some other subcommittee meeting, it wouldn't flow through right into the board meeting because it's already being taken up by the public health and safety meeting. I'm not going to stop doing that. So it would make it more complicated. Anyway, that's my point of view.
Margaret?
So I actually concur with Anand through all the COVID grants and all the stuff that we did with COVID from the very beginning. We started at the public health and safety. We actually, instead of meeting once a month at the beginning, we met once a week because there was so much to do. And there was a committee, but the meeting was also open. There were a lot of people that participated in those things that weren't necessarily on the committee, but had a lot to do with the success of our vaccine clinics, with the success of our hand sanitizers, all of that stuff that we did. So it just, if it's not broken, don't fix it, is what it seems like to me. And it worked really well and was a good flow. Would you agree with that, Anand?
Now, for me, one of the things that I felt like, I looked over how many special meetings we had about all of the grants, and the grants pretty much took up every meeting. Not only every meeting, but it also took 17 special meetings. That's a lot of meetings. I do agree that it should stay in the Public Health Safety Committee, but I also think that they should be able to make the decisions and just bring it to the board once their decisions are made. So I'd like to make a motion
I think that was pretty much the plan, yeah.
Yeah, that the
You
plan
mean
is,
make the decisions about where the money's going to be spent?
yes.
Just to be specific, so we know what we're talking
Yes,
about.
to spend the money, create their own budgets, and they just report back to the board.
And you're comfortable with that, Anand?
You're muted.
It's kind of like a little dance. There's a mute, the mute, the mute. Anyway, I don't think it's really going to be a big issue either way because, as I said, the public health and safety meeting is immediately before the board meeting. So we'll make our decisions as to how we think it should go. We go to the board says yes or no, we go about our business, right? We have immediate feedback because of the timing, right?
But again, I kind of feel like it took up a lot of time and energy, where I feel like if we split duties, that's going to be like the subcommittees this year are going to, like the committees are going to be super important because they can focus their energy on those specific things instead of getting, because I did feel rushed last year too, of
Sure.
here's the information, vote on it. And I really didn't have time for all of that. I want a committee that's focused and like, that's what they're doing. And be able to trust them, because that's really what it is. It's trusting your neighbors that they're going to do the right thing.
I think what we're really talking about is a matter of granularity,
Mhm.
right? I mean, you could say, just give them the whole $230,000 and let them deal with it. I don't think that's a great idea. I think, on the other hand, we could come with a proposed budget where we say, okay, we're likely to put this amount of money in this pot, and this amount of money in this pot, and this amount of money in this pot. And then after the board approves that, which is a fairly large chunks, right? Then the Public Health and Safety Committee can go in and do the fine tuning stuff and not have to worry about. I know we'll give reports, but I mean, once they've approved that this pot goes here, this pot goes here, this pot goes there. That's actually very similar to what happened before. We didn't necessarily go into every single little detail as to where every dollar went. And I don't think we would be doing that this time either. What we'll be doing is saying, like, this problem looks like we're going to be spending about this much. And this problem looks like we're going to be spending about that much. And yes, we, you know, if it turns out that we do something really stupid, they can throw us out.
Thank you.
Dilenia, just for the notes purposes, did I hear you start to make a motion, or was that motion not completed?
I believe the motion wasn't completed, but to amend the motion, they would bring us the chunks of the budgets. That's all that we would be voting on, not the details of the situation. Is that correct, Anand? Okay. So I don't know how you want to put that in. Is there a second for my motion? Thank you, Margaret. And let's all vote. And any no's out there? Okay, looks like the motion passed. Yay. Thank you, Public Health and Safety, for taking it on this year. You guys will do a great job. Okay, so the next item is the mission and the vision. So one of the things that I saw when I came to the Whiteaker Community Council, I started watching and paying attention, and I noticed that they are using very outdated tools, trying their best using Facebook and all kinds of stuff. So my mission was to come on board and help in the background as a at-large board member. But then the pandemic came along and kind of changed things around for us. We were a little bit ahead of the curve and got our QuickBooks in and got the charter done on the side while everything else was going on, and a few other projects. Those were the two I was involved in. That's why I'm mentioning them. But our internal process need critical updating. For the last few years, like I said, it's been pretty bad. Our internal communications is completely awful. Right now, we are communicating via email, and as Claire pointed out to me, we have over 39,374 emails in less than 2 months. So we really need to get a handle on our internal communication. To all board members, I am a conversation kind of person. If you need a quick fix, just call me, text me. That's the fastest and the easiest way to get things done. Right now, we're gonna have, so basically the vision for next year is that we're gonna just hand this over smoothly. Even though we thought the handover was gonna be smooth this year, it was a lot bumpier than we realized. So this year, I do want everybody to put out the word. Anybody has any special skills, come and volunteer and help us get ourselves like organized and get us back on track so we can help you get the neighborhood back to where we need to be. With the website, I'm very happy to say that Saoirse Scott, give us a wave, Saoirse. She has taken on the website ad hoc team. I've gotten her in touch with Jay, who is the contractor who's working on our website. I'm super excited to see what she comes up with to make our website a little bit more user-friendly and help us get some continuity binders. So when we pass on the torch, it could pass on with like a little bit of ease. Did you want to give an update, or you don't have to, but if you have one, it'd be great.
I guess just a super small update. I spoke to Thea today and we're really excited to be moving forward with things. And Thea and Marcus and I are planning to meet at some point next week and really deep dive into website things. And then we also have, I have been in touch with folks from Brent and Joe's studio, and we have the login information from them. So I'm excited to go in and deep dive through the back end of Squarespace and see what we can do to make the website more accessible for our community and a good tool. Yeah, and then we're also hoping, an idea that I've had for WCC communications is potentially using Discord as an app for us to communicate and talk about things offline. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to presenting that to y'all.
That's awesome. And then with that comes our internal communication. Did you have a question, Jen?
I don't want to interrupt, but I was wondering if Saoirse can leave her contact number, phone number with Claire. And thank you very much for doing this, Saoirse. And I'm sorry I say your name incorrectly. Forgive me.
You're totally good. I definitely will do that, Jen.
And then with that comes like our internal communications. And I don't see Marcus here, but Marcus is also looking for a way to get our internal communications under control. Hopefully it'll happen through the website, but if not, I'm sure that they will come up with something that's gonna work out much better than 339,700 emails, whatever the number was. The housing project. So we basically know the housing project. You want to give a little information about the housing project, Anon? The housing grant?
Okay, so it was kind of a prize that OHA gave to us because we did such a good job handling the other money that they gave us, which it is surprising, but hopefully it'll add up to other things later too. So there are a lot of things that the housing grant can do, but there are certain things it simply cannot do. We are not actually allowed to pay anybody's rent with this thing. But there are kind of workarounds with that. Theoretically, you can, for instance, pay landowners or landlords bonuses for making sure that they don't throw somebody out. So, but there's a whole list of things. Like I did email it out to everybody before. There's a lot of things having to do with repairs. If actually, although you can't pay for rent, you can actually pay for motel rooms if somebody needs a temporary place. There are things having to do with, I'm sorry, what? Oh no, that's okay. But there's a whole bunch. I do, if you get the chance, go back and look at that. In fact, that is actually something I was going to request, especially the people who are on the Public Health and Safety Committee. Please do go back and look at that list because we're going to be discussing it intensively. And it's really quite long. But the main thing here is It's supposed to be focused on the idea that because of the pandemic, people have been having a very hard time trying to keep their housing. So this is a chunk of money. It's around 230 something, I think. Believe me, that'll go really fast. But Dennis had a great idea in terms of finding some organizations who are already doing some of the things that we would like to have done and helping contribute towards them. Thereby, we wouldn't have to be spending more money on trying to organize it more than is necessary. We're going to have to spend some, obviously. I think we're probably going to have to hire somebody to help do this on top of everything else. But the most important thing is, oh yeah, we can spend, I think it's up to 15% of the grant on administration if we need to. So we'll look into that and we'll bring whatever discussions and decisions to the board so that you guys all know what's going on for sure. I mean, I'm all about transparency. That's a big thing for me. I'm about transparency and inclusion. So we'll make sure everybody stays on top of what's going on. And we'll take on the work and make sure that the rest of you guys don't have to spend too much time on it.
Yep. That's the plan.
Sorry, now I'm not muted. Dennis, did you want to add something?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. No, I think Anand has already a good feel in the community because he's lived and worked in this community for most of his life. And so he already understands what programs and opportunities are already out there for us to work with and dovetail with. And there's no reason for us to create an entire program all by ourselves around a $235, assistance effort to the community. We can look around. I'm sure Anand already has feelers in the community. He already knows a lot about this, about where this money would be best spent and most effective. And so that's essentially what we're going to do, is decide how best to do that. Minimal overheads, minimal administrative input for everybody, and wrap it up.
Thank you, Dennis.
Sure.
All right, so it doesn't look like Andrew's here, but let's discuss the financials really quick. I have a little something to share with you guys. Let's see. All right, so everybody on the board pretty much knows this, but this is the financial workflow. So last year when I became the treasurer, I found a big, huge no-no. So the prior treasurer had removed everybody from the accounts. They were the only person who had access to it, our checkbooks, and pretty much everything. The way we've structured this, our attorney, Cordelia Daniels, and then Cameron Yates, also from our banker, stated that this was a good way to have a financial workflow and to have some safeguards. So the first way is the board will vote on expenditures. It gets sent to the treasurer, and the bookkeeper has QuickBooks and access to our checks. They pay our bills or our online bills, but then the chair and the vice chair have the option one signature. Like if I'm not available, then Dan would sign. Once the bookkeeper reconciles all the accounts at the end of the month, she closes the books, and then the treasurer will be pulling reports out of QuickBooks and then reporting back to the board. Is there any questions on that? I'm gonna have to stop sharing so I can see you guys. No questions on that one? Okay, and then next one, pretty easy. It's about permissions and who has permissions to what. So same thing, it's kind of a separation of duties. The chair and the vice chair, we have signing privileges, but we don't have access to any checks. We don't have access to QuickBooks. We have no access online. The treasurer, they have access to QuickBooks on their reports only, and they will also have transferring privileges, and they can view online accounts. The bookkeeper, she has the transfer privileges, and they have also full access to our checks. And then no board of directors has any access to any of it. Let's see. Any questions there? Margaret?
So you were saying that was the problem that was fixed?
Yeah,
That you
well, it
found?
was, yeah, it was fixed last year.
Right, and just so that you know, because I was on the board previous when that transition had taken place, that was only for a very short amount of time. And our previous treasurer before you did that all on her own.
That's the
There were-
point.
Right, there were many times that, I mean, I needed to get checks signed for things that we were doing for the whatever during the pandemic, and we had to run around and find Chris Gatsby or, you know, somebody to be able to sign the check. So
Which
it
is
was
okay.
not like that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
She did that on her own.
Well, what ended up happening was she removed everybody else from the accounts. And was
Right,
the
which
only
she
one.
should not have done.
Exactly. The treasurer should always have just an overview. They are the gatekeepers, they are the eyes. All they're supposed to be doing is watching the money go back and forth and say, timeout, this is right, or no, timeout, this is wrong.
So are you suggesting that the bookkeeper have access to the money as well, or no?
The bookkeeper does have access to the checks, but they don't have signing privileges.
Right,
So
so they
there's
don't,
nothing-
so they can write a check.
Oh,
and
she could
someone
write a
else,
million of them.
someone else signs it, but they actually don't have access directly to the money.
Correct.
Okay,
They do have access to the accounts to pay bills online, but that's it.
and I mean, I just
Again,
because I've worked with government agencies for so long,
I worked
I've
for the
seen things
military for 10
happen.
years. No, I get what you're saying, but
you know, to
but
have
believe
someone
me-
have access to our money that is not a board member, anyone. Don't misunderstand me, anyone. I have some reservations about that. I
it's
mean,
a
I understand.
professional person who,
I've
I
seen,
understand what you're saying, but
I've
in the
seen
same
mayors
token-
empty the city bank account and split town and go to Mexico. In my career, because they had access to, you know, in a small town, they had access to the bank account.
Yeah, well, we don't have
And
that much money. So if
I
she does it
know.
for the money that we have, then
I
she's
know,
silly.
I just,
Because there's about 4 other companies here in the Whiteaker that they work for that it's probably better that she steals from them. But seriously, you know,
right, and I'm not talking
again-
about her. I'm just
no,
talking
I'm
in
saying
general.
specifically, nobody in general is going to mess up their career over.
I've
taking
seen lots
pieces
of people
out
do it. I'm just saying, if you could,
And
if you
that's
could really,
when the
if you
treasurer
could
says,
hear me,
time out.
if you
That's
could
when the
hear
tre-
me, Dilenia,
Yeah,
if you could hear me, I just
Mhm.
want to voice my opinion that I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with having someone that is not a board member have access, direct access to the money. And I just want to put that on the
and
record.
that is why we have the treasurer doing overview. Because the treasurer is the one who's going to be watching what the board votes on. And then when he gets the reports back, then they look at it and compare notes. Do you see what I'm
Right,
saying?
I understood all of that. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make it, make a record of saying that I'm just not comfortable with somebody having access to the money that isn't on the board.
So you, like Cameron is our banker. He has, go ahead, Dennis.
Margaret, I just wanted to say that during the 12 years that I was treasurer, we never had a dime go astray. I mean, even before that, very rarely even. But it's very hard for anyone to take money out of our accounts and get away with it. I mean, even if our bookkeeper decided to, you know, break bad and take all of our money. She couldn't, because Cameron understands that we're a nonprofit. We have multiple layers of security, and this signatory has to be on this check, blah, 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 that frankly, he would spot any funky move. shut it
There were
down.
funky
So
moves that
is
happened in the last,
very, very low.
funky
Excuse
things
me.
happened under the last,
Well, you know,
a few years ago. But it's
how
okay.
could
I
we-
just wanted to get that on the record.
I get that. I get that, Margaret. It's a really important concern, and it is one of mine as well. And how Katie Gusky managed to pull some of the shenanigans she did is, I can almost not comprehend it, because the bank should have shut that down. She's not allowed to just go in and remove signatories at the bank. She's not allowed to do that. You know, you need a decision. You need to bring in the minutes of a board meeting at which that decision was made and show the banker. So how she managed to do that, I don't know, but it shouldn't happen.
And I can tell you that Cameron wasn't our banker before. He was new to our account when we went in to do it. And not only does he also has our continuities and our workflows. So even if he's not the one who's doing it, he gets to pass that information along on how to do it to the next banker. But
Right,
yeah.
but Dilenia, I think that the way you set this up, I mean, if anyone can see, you know, a gaping hole in this, Margaret, if you have a suggestion, you see a gaping hole in the fence here, I wish you'd point it out. I'm not sure I'm seeing one.
No, I just wanted to say verbally that I'm not comfortable with having someone have access to our money that is not on the board. And I'm not, and Dilenia already knew that. We already had that conversation, but I just wanted to voice it during a meeting, you know, and have it go on record. It's just like you said, you don't know how Katie Gusky did it, but you know what? She did. And that's really what it comes down to. I think that we need to go back to 2 signatures.
Yeah.
You know, and that way we really are held accountable for our money. You are right. We are a very small organization. We don't have that much money. We're not spending that much money. Excuse me, Jennifer, I'm still talking. Thank you very much. You know, we just, it happened. It happened to us before, and it does have the possibility of happening. But it's okay.
Happen. You're right. It does happen, Margaret. You're right. Yeah.
It's okay. I just wanted to get it on record. That was all. Thank you for your time.
Jennifer, did
Thanks
you
for
have
hearing
something
me.
to say? You're welcome. Jen, did you have anything?
No.
Does anybody have any questions? Any other questions or concerns? Alrighty, so something that's still kind of being tweaked is the charter. Right now, we don't really have any updates. I believe the charter is still with our attorney. Go ahead, Dennis.
There we go, unmute. I'm having an issue with that. I came back onto the board really mostly to put the charter to bed. We started the process maybe about 6 years ago. And there was an obvious need for a charter revision. And so between myself and Kathy Feely and a number of other board members who had been around for a very long time, we wrote a new charter based on the changes we felt were necessary. And then I quit rather suddenly, and so did Kathy Feely. And so it wasn't carried forward until Jennifer took care of it, took a hold of it. And so essentially, and Dilenia, you and Jennifer worked it over pretty thoroughly in the last couple of years, but I have to say it's been entirely changed. And a lot of the things that we changed specifically for really good reasons were, I mean, you guys didn't really understand what you were doing when you changed a lot of the articles in the sections. And so when I asked to see the charter that was uploaded to the lawyer and the city attorney, I looked at it and said, this doesn't look right. And I read it very, very carefully. And it is not the document that you want. It's some of the changes were completely left out. A simple example is that there was always a $200 limit on the amount of money that the board could spend from the general fund without a vote of the general membership, which is a huge hurdle for $200, and we upped that limit to $500 so that the board could just spend $500 if it had to for its business. And so even that was changed. We made it $500. That was changed back to $200 on the charter that was uploaded by whoever wrote it and uploaded it. And it's many of the other clauses that we worked hard to work out and insert specifically was just simply removed and left out. And I honestly think this has been a terrible mistake. And I think you need to revise the charter. And I've sent everyone, well, I've sent Jen and I sent Dilenia both, my version of the best inclusive charter with all of the amendments as they need to be, as we wrote it originally before you guys changed it. And so that is on the table. It's out there. I sent it.
Go ahead, Margaret. Well, let me just, so Dennis understands, give me a few minutes. So one of the things that happened was when Jen and I first started the charter, we had what I believe it was about 18 versions. And it was a mess. What we were left, who gave us, by the time that we got in touch, we tried to get in touch with Kathy Healy. She did not want to be a part of any of it, and I completely understand. We went with the 5013 guidance. We also went with the city model. We had to put some updates because of technology updates that came up. But the biggest hurdle turned out to be the language that was being used as far as what type of format we were going to use on the charter. So we kept getting told it was track changes and black line. And one of the things that we found out is that one was on a Microsoft. What they're looking for is basically what every company in the United States use, which is Microsoft Word, which has black line. But we did not have access to that. So we had to use a different platform. By using that different platform, that's what ended up happening, where Andrew had to step in because he was the only one who had that Microsoft Word. And I don't believe that that was supposed to be the charter that was like original, but it's still at our attorney. We even learned a really valuable lesson this time as far as when we are switching officers and what it actually takes to get those bank accounts switched over. That's one of the reasons why in the charter, we split up the treasurer and the secretary, excuse me, it's the chair and the secretary will be 1 year, and then the opposite year will be the vice chair and the treasurer. So this way there's always some type of continuity.
Dilenia, do you not realize that the charter version that was uploaded to the lawyers did not include that article? That article you're talking about was completely removed.
Well, we're gonna wait till they send it back, and then I've got to get back with Jen, and we're gonna have to relook at it and see if that was even the right one, because that seems to be the big issue right now. I'll be honest, I did not see what was uploaded to the attorney, so I'm not sure.
Well, you need to, because it's not the document you think it is.
Okay.
It's a document that has, I mean, even the formatting is funky. It's not the document you think was uploaded. So have a look at it, please.
Thank you, Dennis. Go ahead, Margaret.
So, am I unmuted? Okay. So in Jen and Dilenia's defense, the charter that you all wrote, I see that you're leaving, but that's okay. Just so everyone knows, the charter that was written previously did go to the city attorney's office, and it sat on their desk for 3 years. I can't remember what her name was. I actually met her at a COVID clinic. And it sat on her desk for 3 years and she never processed it. And she ended up spending 3 years arguing with a previous chair.
You're talking about Renee Kane.
Yes, and it sat on her desk what you did. So it was submitted and it just was never processed.
That's not accurate, Margaret.
Okay.
No, you weren't there. Sorry, that's
No,
not
but I did come later and I know what happened before we asked them to redo the charter. And what you guys had done was sent to the city and it was kind of lost.
No, it wasn't lost. It wasn't lost, Margaret.
Okay, well, I
was
don't want to
sent back.
argue with you.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you, Margaret. I'm going to tell you what actually happened since you weren't there and you brought it up. Okay.
Right. I'm
So
just
we
talking about
need-
what has happened in the past 3 years, Dennis.
Excuse me,
Lots of
Mark.
things happened 10 years ago and that, they're
Excuse
not.
me, Margaret. We sent it to Renee Kane. Renee Kane decided that it needed other articles and sections that we did not agree with. And so we had to have a little go around with Renee Kane for about a year. Okay, and we batted it back and forth with the city attorney. And that's why there were 18 different versions of it by the time Dilenia and Jennifer came along. Of course, that's confusing. Yeah. But if you'd simply listened,
Jen,
to other board members from the past who were trying to tell you what the score was, then you wouldn't be in this situation, Margaret.
Jen,
Yes. So what Dennis says is, yeah, I agree with, because I was there also, Margaret, during the time when Kathy was and Dennis was working on it. But you're also, I see your point of view as well, Margaret. So what ended up happening is there was a different city attorney at the time on top of everything else. So, now Renee is retired and so is that city attorney. And so we have a whole new thing. We have our own attorney for the first time, and we have a new city attorney and a new HRNI person. So it should flow, and we're going to have to wait for that review from our attorney to come back, and then we can work out the knots, the problems. And so we just have to be patient, because there is, as we know, the amendments article that we can make changes if they need be. So we just got to be patient, which brings me to the question of, I want to know how often we get updated on our needs that need to be addressed that Gail is point on.
one of the
Charter.
things that Gail hasn't had an update since May, but since we do pay the attorney once a month, I do expect once a month to have an update on all the projects that they're doing. So Gail's not here tonight, but I'll let her know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions on the charter? No? Just wanted to let everybody know we also have a transportation committee. Brad and Claire, I wanted to ask you a question. Is there any way that we can just get the city to remove all the 30 speed signs? Because if they remove the 30 speed signs, then it automatically becomes a 20. I was just curious if that's been asked. Oh.
I'm gonna let Brad take this one.
Okay, I'll give this a whack. Yeah, we could do that. And if the city chose to, they could prosecute us for it. So it probably isn't the best way to build the relationship with the city's transportation team.
Oh,
And
no,
I say
I
that as
didn't
an
mean,
expert in breaking that relationship.
no, I meant, is there any way we can get them just to take them down? Not
And
us, like go.
here's where I'll jump in and say that that's going to be a big fat no from them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you,
one of the problems is there's a and this is a problem that I'm going to have to say a lot of this lies with me. There's a long-standing animosity between the city transportation team and the Whiteaker. It's a big part of why we're last in line for everything that happens good and first in line for things that aren't so good. And so, and that goes back, the history of that is Shane Rhodes, who's on the transportation team, used to be the head of the Safe Routes to School. And he put out some public statements that were untrue. And I publicly called him out on that. And let me tell you, he hates me. And I mean, he really, really hates me. And so I don't hate him, which is, you know, I was always told I hope there's repair. Only one way is broken on the thing. But yeah, so it's really tough to get them to do things for us. I mean, it's been, well, we're getting on to almost 2 years since they were supposed to change the residentials to 20. My street, which is the densest street for the number of residences per linear foot of street in the entire city, still isn't changed. You know, and I do know why my street will be last to be changed. So yeah. Yeah. So I like your idea. We can't do that. Yeah.
Claire, did you have something to say? I saw you wrote something in the chat.
Well, I suppose, you know, I see the personal side of this, and then I also see what I hear. Well, I hear what I hear from the city, which is lack of staff, lack of supply. Who knows if there's truth in that or not. I sent the most recent update that I received regarding the 20 miles per hour signs in our neighborhood. The black and white of the situation that I've received is that we're at the end of the counterclockwise swoop of the new sign installations, and a couple of the slowdowns is just because in some locations in our neighborhood, they don't just need to change the physical miles per hour sign. They need to like drill a new hole, put in concrete, put in a signpost, and install the actual sign. And trust me, I'm thinking excuses too. I want to see cars slow down just as much as the rest of you do. I'm a cyclist, so there you go. My life is at risk every time I bike to work or to the grocery store. One piece of information that I did hear from a City of Eugene transportation staff member is to perhaps look at what other neighborhood organizations have done around organizing for safety in their neighborhood. Most specifically, the Friendly Area Neighbors, FAN, and their persistence around the speed bumps on Jefferson. That wasn't exactly at the top of City of Eugene's list, but the persistence is really what drove that up there. And so I think that there's lessons to be learned. In previous meetings, I volunteered to reach out to respective transportation committees or whatever committees exist at other neighborhood organizations to learn from what has worked in other locations and take that information back here and apply where we can. I think that there's a few upcoming events that we can really lean on in terms of leaning on the city for improvements. Something that I have brought forward several times. I'm not sure if all of you know, but I work in the transportation world professionally. I work for a nonprofit that is dedicated to transportation safety. And I continue to speak up for the Whiteaker, saying we get boosted up as the fun place, the tourist place. That's where people go to play at the river and go to restaurants and bars and such and see live music. We're going to see an influx of people with Organ 22. We already have dangerous traffic conditions, and that's only going to increase with more visitors to our community. So that's where I'm at. I'm willing to fight for it, but there's also been, I know, scheduling challenges in the transportation committee trying to get us all together, but I'm here for it.
Oh,
Sounds good. Jen, you're in the queue,
thank
and
you.
then Keith right after.
Yes, thank you, Claire. That was good. I'm grateful that you're going to be going to check out the other people who have had success with getting things done, because there has to be something we're missing. Also, Dad or anybody in transportation, have you been able to look into or speak with Nathan over at Hot Belly about the truck situation that's on North Polk Street? Now it's becoming 7 days a week, where Hot Valley is delivering, but thank goodness they're not picking up on the weekends. But so you have constant trucks that are, going back and forth, and it gets more active during the warmer months, the summer months. And there are some trucks that will try to park overnight with their engine on. So it's very disturbing with sound and fumes. And I think I know I talked to Dan about it, but anyone who wants to jump in from the transportation, please, I'd like to work with this Nathan from Hot Valley. He's a really very fine person and easy to work with. He would like to get signs in to say no overnight truck parking. And he tried to get it done, but he wasn't successful. So I think we need to reach out to him in some form so that we work together. Thank you.
Jennifer, where are the trucks parking, and are these not associated with Hop Valley? Or are they just people that decide to park there?
It's mostly pickup trucks. They go, Hot Valley drives their brew to the coach and stores them in the warehouse. And they do at 6 o'clock in the morning. And at 7 o'clock, these trucks start coming in. And it really does cause traffic jams where cars cannot get through. It's pretty intense. And so their engines are going for a long time. And while we have nice days, we're trying to enjoy the air along with the killer pollen, and then we have killer exhaust. So that's an issue. And the gentleman, Nathan is his name at Hot Valley, is very willing to work out whatever it can be worked out. And that's encouraging.
Dan, do you have an
Yes,
update?
my experience with I worked with all of the owners of the breweries. About 5 years ago or 6 years ago, Lane County Public Health came out with an initiative called Respect Yourself, Respect the Neighborhood. And we worked with all of the different brewery owners and pub owners to think about curtailing their hours and complying with all of the state rules about serving drunken patrons, and to be mindful of their patrons in the neighborhood. And if they wouldn't mind, would they please put up a sign? And you've probably seen the signs around in some of the pubs. It's a green sign with white lettering made in metal. And we made coasters and we did all kinds of things. So all of the brewery owners were extremely helpful and eager to work with us because they want to have a good impact here. They want to be well respected and well received. And so they actually paid quite a bit of money into our parking fund collectively over a few years. They were the primary payers. They were very happy to come to meetings.
So I'm going to have to stop
and
you guys
discuss.
because Keith actually was next.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, I just wanted to say that the brewery guys would be very happy to work this out. I think so.
Okay, thank you.
What
Go
I
ahead,
have
Keith.
to say is goes along with what he just said anyways, because I've been talking downtown and they're just like, well, let's get the kids have been locked up for 2 years. Let's get the parades going. Where's the parades going? Where's the kid stuff? Let's get some of these, let's get the Ninkasi Clydesdales out there on the street. They can find somebody to clean the poop up. They pay somebody. It's good compost. That's one thing. I know. I also walked up to the top of Skinner's Butte tonight because I didn't want to come down here without doing that. Dave, that thing is totally full of speed bumps like you were talking about. If you walk up to the top of or drive up, I didn't get run off the road. I was walking. There's a lot more. It just seemed roomier. They've been doing some work up there. People are slower because they got speed bumps to go. A lot of them, they're not those little tiny speed bumps either. They got a mound.
This is up in the Butte.
You go up the Butte Road and you'll see the major road that says somebody from here must have, because
They finished them though? Are they finished?
they're working on it up there.
Okay.
They're doing things. I think that maybe it has to do with the reservoir, because those are old, but they're well needed. They might become back in fashion again to get those reservoirs cleaned up. They're doing them over there on the other side of town too. It seems like, oh, you know that roads are going to be a big hassle.
Yeah.
You got the best place because you're downtown, ground zero. It's everything's beautiful here. You have the artists, and you have all the. You could do a parade better than anybody could do a parade. I don't know where to go down 5th Street and come off the river to the steam plant and up 8th Street to the Willamette Street to the park. Some kind of a major.
Thank you, Keith.
Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and move on to the next subject. Facebook. So right now, couple years ago, they've been using Facebook as the board of directors communication. One of the biggest problems is that a majority of our documentation is on Facebook. We have to find a better way of storing documents because A, it's a social media, and B, we could pretty much lose it at any time if they decide to close Facebook or our specific page altogether. So that is going to be something that also the website team is looking into. Marcus is going to look into our internal communications, but I believe they also have that kind of on their plate. Again, we're going to need some volunteers because it's going to be a big task to move those documents off of Facebook and put them to a new spot. Just something for everybody to think about. Margaret, I know that you said you didn't have an update for the Neighborhood Leaders Council. I do know that I reached out and they were asking, they weren't looking for a representative from each neighborhood association. What they were looking for was for all boards members to go to them. Go ahead, Margaret. You're muted. Margaret, you're muted.
The Neighborhood Leaders Council is different than that Robert guy who's been sending all those emails. He actually works for the city, and he is a liaison between the neighborhood councils and the city. He's the city liaison between the two. And so the summit that they're doing, I believe, is actually being put on by the city. The Neighborhood Leaders Council itself is a thing. And I have been to some meetings, but I just, I can't commit and give it what it needs to make that happen.
Do you feel like it's helping in any way? Are you getting any good information from them? Or?
Well, I think it's good for us to network, and most of it is the chairs, if you want to know the truth. Ian was very busy with the grants and with figuring out what we were doing, and he was in meetings with the city. And I mean, you know, you have an idea. Every night he was doing something. Mm-hmm. And so he delegated that duty. Honestly, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea for you to go to a couple of meetings and see what you think, but it is a great way to network. And we should be networking with our other neighborhood associations.
Yeah.
I just don't have the time to do it. And they only meet, technically, they only meet once a month. Right now with this whole, the city is trying to change the bylaws or something. I've forwarded all of the information, but the city is rewriting stuff as far as how it looks at neighborhood associations. And so that's what all the uproar is about.
Gotcha.
I mean, my mailbox is just filled with stuff. I don't know, but I do have an update on the Parks and Business.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So about a month ago, Thea and Marcus, myself, and Travis D actually met with a gal from the city, and we had all talked about it and talked about the parks and some of the things that are happening. And I myself, as well as Thea, we came to the conclusion that probably one of the parks next to Washington Jefferson that was hit the hardest was Scobert Gardens. We did the ice cream social down there last year. That's where the Whiteaker Market is, all of that. And there's lots of activity there. We spent, I talked to almost everybody who lives on that street at some point or another in the last year. And what they said, they all agreed and said the same thing. And they said that what needs to happen is we just need to have more activities in the park. And so some people actually came to me and said that they wanted to do some activities in the park. And we met with the city. They agreed to waive any fees. And to me, these are good things. Like tomorrow, every Thursday night, the Dead Bishops Chess Club will meet from 6 to 8 and be playing chess in the park.
That's
It will
fun.
be, we did file the paperwork for a permit. The city will go in. One of the nice things is the city's going to go in and clean up the park before they go in.
Oh, nice.
Also, on Wednesdays, a group of people came to me and they said that they wanted to bring back music in the park. There was a thing that was called Friends of Scobert Gardens back in the day. And they used to, every Wednesday night from 7 to 9, they had some kind of music in there. Nothing like the bands that were like behind Tiny, so, over COVID. Just some acoustic. Like I know they've already committed Samba Jaw is going to come. If anyone knows who they are, they play the drums. They're great. It's fun. So on Wednesday nights, they've already, they're doing all the work. All I'm doing is just helping them get the fees waived through the city.
Nice.
We are looking tentatively at trying to find something on Saturday morning, something like a yoga class or a Tai Chi, something along those lines, correct? We would like to get somebody from the Whiteaker that owns a business, and it would be a great way for them to also increase their business by getting more customers. If somebody comes to some free classes and they like it, they're going to be more likely to go and join whatever place of business is doing it. We've talked to all the businesses in that area. They're super excited. They just, it's great things that are happening, and people are on board. The city is on board, and yeah. And basically
Now work on all the other parks too, like get
right. Well, we're
like that on the
gonna
other
do
parks.
that. We're gonna do
Yeah.
that. But the nice thing is that the community members are doing it. It's not,
Awesome.
I'm just helping them, but I'm encouraging people that live in the neighborhood to step up and make things happen.
That's what we're here for. We're here
Exactly.
to just show them the way, Board of Solution, give them 3 solutions, tell them when they're going out there, get some solutions. Don't just
They're
keep talking
doing
about the
it.
problem. Good
They're
job.
even the gal who lives next door. She lives on the west side of the park. What they're going to do for Wednesdays with the music is that there will be a host at every time there's a band. It'll be a different host. They'll get up, they'll introduce whoever's
Nice.
playing the music, and we're going to plug into Catherine Reinhardt's house. She's already agreed. She is so ecstatic to have some
Nice.
activity in the park so that she doesn't have to deal with people with feces and needles and whatever is happening there right in her driveway.
Jen, did you have something to say?
Yes,
Okay.
just to let you know that I'm working on the advisory panel with HRNI, which is a city, and we had a meeting on Tuesday, and it was very lively, and a lot of people spoke to the issues that were going on with the neighborhood associations and others, NLC. So it is being addressed, and we're also at a very, very beginning stage of making any changes with the one in particular that has to do with the north, and other things seem to be developing. So we're at the very beginning of this process.
You're
Thank
talking
you.
about when we were talking about the Neighborhood Leaders Association or
Yeah.
Leaders Council? Yeah,
Yeah.
and all of that, everyone has all of that. I forwarded to everyone
No,
in an email.
well, I'm
No,
just
she's
saying,
talking about her advisory panel that she's on.
Right, and they're talking about the Neighborhood Leaders Council, I think,
Gotcha.
right?
we're talking about both. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to get at is that their voice is being heard. They chimed in. So it's going to take a little bit of a process, which is
Dennis?
good because we want to get it done correctly.
Dennis, did you have something?
Yes, I came in about 15 or 20 minutes late to the meeting, and so I didn't know if you ever even convened the meeting or if you converted it into a board meeting, because we didn't really have community participation tonight to have a quorum, but we do have a quorum of board members here. And so I'm wondering if you ever got to that before I joined the meeting.
Jane, did you, we did get quite a few board members, and there were a couple people have already dropped out, but there were about, I want to say about 6 members.
Okay, but my question was, I was thinking just procedurally, if you had wanted to change this into a board meeting, you could, or
Okay.
we could wait.
She
we
did.
could wait.
She followed the proper procedure, and we had public comment, and then she announced that we were starting the board meeting and we were going to record it. And she did exactly what it was that she was supposed to, and basically followed the Robert's Rules of Order.
Super, so it's a board
So
meeting.
yes, it's on tape. If you would like to go back and watch it, I'm sure that that will be available.
Margaret,
Jane,
take it
did you
easy.
have something?
I'm asking because I'm going to leave the meeting because I've,
Okay.
got stuff going on. So we have a board meeting next week. And
Gotcha.
if the chair wanted to pass a motion during this meeting, we had discussed that by email, or we can wait until next week at the board meeting.
I believe that's the next item.
Oh, okay.
That,
I'll hang
yeah.
up then.
Yeah,
I'll
that was the item that you missed. We took the motion 3 and we kind of just switched around the wording. It is going to stay in the public health and safety meeting, but there's only 7 people who go to that anyway. So it'll be those people who are going to create the big budgets. They're going to present the budgets, but once the big budgets are done, once everything is done, they'll bring it to.
I'm getting confused, Dilenia. Are you telling me that you passed the motion that we were discussing by email?
Yes, the motion number 3.
Can I see the motion? Can I see the motion?
Yeah, let's see if I can pull it up.
I also just put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, here we go. Got it.
I missed the part that we're a board meeting now, so I'm just waving goodbye. I'm gonna go.
Thank you,
Been
Jane.
great.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
coming
Jane.
in.
Okay.
Is that a motion? Dilenia motions to have Public Health and Safety Committee bring WCC chunks of budget that WCC board should be voting on. Is that the
Well,
motion?
what the motion was is that they're the public safety meeting. Actually, Anon, you want to explain it a little bit better?
Just to clarify, I took it down directly as I heard what the motion was, so I'm happy to fix it, but just I need to know what I'm recording here.
Gotcha.
So chunk is probably not a very smooth word, but the idea is simply that the concern was that the committee that was going to handle the housing portion of the grant didn't have authority to do a budget. And so the idea was that we were giving the committee the ability to do a budget. And what the committee is going to do is bring the chunk is not the correct term, but there will be portions of the budget
Blocks?
divided up in various areas based on what the committee has decided to do. It's not going to be fine. It's just going to be, there's going to be some money for this, some money for that, some money for the other thing. And the meeting is going to be immediate. The board meeting, of course, is immediately after the public safety meeting. So we can have it approved immediately. Then the committee goes and does the fine tuning. We decide how that money is divided up in smaller portions. So the idea is just to get the approval for the budget, and then we can proceed on.
So just to make sure I have this correct in the notes, I've changed it to Dilenia motions to give Public Health and Safety Committee ability to bring blocks of the budget in various areas, ability to decide where those blocks go. Is that accurate?
Could we please stop this and back up for a moment? We have a motion that will be put on the table. I'm going to back out of the meeting right now because it's going to take too much work to fix this. We really should do this in the board meeting next Wednesday. So I'm going to email the entire board the exact wording that we need in the motion. Okay, and then we can have discussion over the next week. And then next Wednesday at the board meeting, we'll bring the motion and we'll have discussion and then we'll vote on it. And there you go.
I would prefer.
We
that you
already
write-
voted and we already had a second and we already voted and we can't just say, pretend like we didn't vote.
Margaret, you don't understand how this works.
I
Okay.
do understand. I
Guys,
don't want to be rude and I
No, you
don't.
couldn't possibly be rude,
let's
Margaret.
stop,
So
let's stop right
not worry
now.
about that.
Let's
I'm
do
not
it.
being-
I don't
let-
appreciate your sarcasm.
I'm gonna have to move to both. Let's just relax for a few minutes. We can put it on the, what I'm going to do is we will put it on for discussion. If you want to amend that vote too, but if I don't want to have these long email strings, because as Claire has pointed out, we've had over 39,000 emails. So
Just to clarify,
Dennis,
that was me just like hitting numbers on my keyboard. That's not actually how many, but that's how many
Okay.
it feels like.
it feels like, but anywho, so one of the things that we're gonna do is I can go ahead and put it on for the board meeting for discussion. But at this point, I kind of want to move on to the next piece.
Before we
Uh,
move on, I just want to confirm, am I striking the whole motion second and everything that we had gone through? Just want confirmation on that.
I would say no if another amended motion wants to come through afterwards, but at this point, I would say leave it the way it is.
It's going to have to go anyway. I won't participate in that motion.
I understand.
That's a garbled motion that makes no sense whatsoever. So we're going to back up and do it right. And if you
We're
don't like the
gonna- we're
motion,
gonna
then you
discuss
don't have to
it.
vote on it, okay? So.
We're gonna
in
discuss it at the board meeting. We'll discuss it at the
Please.
board meeting. If you want to write out in detail,
I wish you guys hadn't passed that motion. You had no discussion on it and you didn't even know what you were doing.
Dan,
So I'm gonna go and I'll see you guys later.
with
Bye.
all due respect, you
Yeah.
arrived 20 minutes late to this meeting. If you had
He's
something to
gone.
say, you would arrive on time. I don't care that he's gone. This is recorded. I am at my wit's end here. That was ridiculous.
Taking my ball and going home.
it's okay. We'll have more discussion on that later.
Let's just say some people would prefer to have fewer people involved.
Yeah.
And I'll just leave it at that.
It was one of those situations.
Uh-oh, you froze.
I think
Howard,
we
it is
all
a nice picture.
agrees.
Uh-oh,
Um,
hopefully it's not me.
so,
It's not you,
May
Anand.
not-
I see it.
Okay.
well,
I'm back. Can you see me?
yes,
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Sorry, hold on a second. I gotta work some little magics here. And yeah, so next thing is, he would have been really interested in this one. It was the fundraising and donations. One of the things that last year, even though we've got almost $900,000, the WCC did not make any money. We made very limited money, about $6,500, and that was it. One of the things that we really, really need to put out there is a fundraising effort. We really, really need like participation from the whole entire community. We need help. We used to have the parking lots that was set up by Dennis that used to bring us some income, but the income has stopped. So I do have a few ideas. I know we have like an Amazon Smiles account that's a little further down on the thing. But if we could start promoting our Amazon Smiles and getting a fundraising committee also, because that's something that we definitely are going to need. That is just something to think about. Try to get some people, anybody with any kind of experience would be really, really, really awesome to have. Yes, that branding our work with donors' requests, we definitely need to work on that. Saoirse, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the website in a long time. If we have a QR code in there, that's something that we definitely want to put into our website, is how to, and I think they've done it, but I'm not quite sure. Just something to put in your court just in case. But yeah, our Amazon Smiles account, we have one. It wasn't active for a long time. I started the process, but with the financial dealings of last year, I kind of dropped that on the wayside and had to pick up other stuff to do. But yeah, let your neighbors know we need help, any help we can get. Let's see, community center displacement. Is Dan still here? Dan, are you here? Hello, Dan. Did you want to give just like a little tiny update on what's going on with the community center?
Yeah, I can do that. The women from Head Start have decided that they did not want to communicate until June 15th. And so I won't have anything to report until then, what does that include our next meeting? That is on the day of.
I believe it might even be, yeah, it's the day of.
Yeah, so I'll communicate with them again. I've got several emails out that have not been answered. They're not really great about getting back. The woman in Springfield from Head Start said that she would communicate me, and she roped Charlene into the discussion. Charlene is the woman who runs Head Start here at the Whiteaker school. And the woman Annie in Springfield deferred to Charlene, who does not want anyone on campus until school is out. And even though that sort of denied what I was asking for, which is just clarity, hopefully we'll be able to have a chance to get myself and at least one of the other board members to walk through there sometime, hopefully next week. We'll find out about that. I'll once again reach out again, and I have some telephone numbers that I can use. It's not my preference because they don't seem to want to be disturbed or even respond, but I'll work on that again this week and hopefully have something to report concretely next Wednesday.
And just to let you know that Jen and I took a walk today and we passed by there, and on the back of the building, if you pull the tree back, we took a picture of the Whiteaker Community Council sign.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see where everything's at next week, and then we'll decide what to do, I guess. Okay, so the boundaries from the Whiteaker community address. One of the things that has been happening is that, let me see if I could share my screen here with you. When Jen and I were working on the charter, we found that the Google Maps was not correct. So what the Google Maps was doing is taking the Whiteaker community, and it is pretty much just cutting it off to this. If you go to the city's website, this is exactly what it is. So Keith, you might be interested in this. You are absolutely right. The butte is ours. So this whole entire side, now I can understand why a lot of people don't think the wit when they're talking about the other side. One of the things that I've seen in the last few years is that we are focusing our efforts right here in the middle. When it comes to like businesses and outreach, and I'm really looking forward to like spreading the love throughout the whole entire Whiteaker. I think Margaret went ahead and also left, but I did want Margaret and them to stretch out past those boundaries of the ones that they kept, that they just keep in touch with, like that little Third Avenue companies. And I've been talking to anybody on my side, which is on the other side of the 501. And they're kind of excited on getting on our webpage also. Is there any questions about that? Oh, and if you want to know an address in the Whiteaker to find out what ward, or it's what ward, what district you're in, it tells you what police beat you're on and what neighborhood association. The website for the city is the best place to type in your address, and that'll let you know exactly where you're at.
I just dropped the link in the chat as well. It's a very handy tool.
It's a very handy tool.
Can I mention one thing?
Sure.
I think this is a great example of why it's important to have people with different experiences participating in things. Because Dilenia, where you work is on the other side.
Yeah.
You know, and because of that, you're more sensitized to this than other people might be. And that's exactly my point in trying to avoid having anything too small with too few people. There just isn't enough input from experience. That's all I got to say. But thank you for doing this. I think it's really important. That's really been bugging me on Google Maps. I'm going like, here's all our people. Damn.
Yeah. Get everybody, Claire and I have been doing, and actually Jen too, we've been doing this little campaign against Google and sending them the maps. And,
Good one.
even the Wikipedia, which I never use because that's like the worst place to do, but they also show us only having that one little space. So yeah, so it's time to kind of like push it on. Keith, I'm sorry, I just saw your hand.
You covered it. You did good. If you have the whole mountain, you circle the whole mountain. Then you start seeing you're in charge of the top of the mountain. You can see looking down off the top of the mountain. That's a huge middle of town that this Whiteaker is, the center of town.
And thank you for pointing it out, because you were the person who pointed it out that I really kind of took a look at the map. So yeah, thanks for letting us know the Skinner's Butte was ours.
Fifth Street goes all the way down there too, and Fifth Street goes all the way down to the 4th Street to the Cheshire Park, all the way around the mountain, ring around the Rosie.
Mhm.
You know, it's the middle of town. You got the downtown businesses are, and the park is a different, there's a Skinner's addition to that major idea when he set up his house, which you have. The house is down at the park, at the Skinner's Butte Park. Yeah,
Stephen, did you, what were you saying? The most recent? You're muted.
Can't hear you.
Stephen, you're muted.
Yep, sorry, I was in the wrong screen. I'd enlarged the chat screen and couldn't see mute button. Yeah, as I was reading the most recent draft of the new Articles of Association that was circulated, the boundaries don't go the other side of Skinner Butte. So the articles need to be rewritten in that part to reflect those boundaries. And Skinner's land claim, which I think may be what, is it Keith was referring to?
Keith, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I was looking at that on, and you can read that on the charter for the city.
Yeah,
For the neighborhood charters on the neighborhood page will
There is
give you that.
but by the replica of Skinner's cabin that's in the park, there is a map showing what Skinner's land claim was. That's not showing anything other than Skinner's land claim. It's not intended to reflect neighborhood association boundaries. And just for clarification, that replica or so-called replica of Skinner's cabin that's in the park is not the location of the cabin that Skinner built. That's up near the climbing area.
That's what I thought. They got a sign up there, but I wasn't sure.
They did
I
have a
wasn't sure.
sign up there. The sign has been ripped off sometime last year.
So his house looked off west. His house looked off to Whiteaker, looking down on Whiteaker
Yeah,
to the west.
but the main point is that the most recent draft, I think probably the draft that went to the city attorney, doesn't reflect boundaries shown in the map that Dilenia just showed us.
He was a big mountain guy on top of the mountain, Havage Hill, and
Yeah,
he
that's just, yeah.
It was also sacred space, and he was running his animals on a sacred mountain. It's not surprising people were upset.
They got big monster crystals up there. Kids climb up on, get the resin on their finger. They climb these big crystals, and it's all volcanic crystals. Down below there, you're going to see this place called the healing. Go walk in that healing space. The healing space. You know what I'm talking about?
Claire,
Down on. I think it's.
Claire, I'm sorry, Keith. Claire, did you have something? Your hand's raised.
I just want to kind of steer us back to the agenda. It's
Thank you.
8:32, and I'm not sure if we've made it to the 7:45 item asking for our neighbors to volunteer. But I suggest we move on if we can.
Thank you. Yeah, we are just looking for volunteers to help with any special skills they have. If they have IT or any good ideas, just make sure everybody comes out. Right now, I believe we are in document storage, but that is also kind of hooked up to the Facebook removal. So the next item would be the continuity binders for officers. So one of the things that, like I said, through the transition, it seems really easy from one of us to the other. But I know that Claire, you just kind of hopped into the role And I kind of hopped into the roles too, and we didn't realize like how much help the officers are gonna need. So I do want to come up with some continuity binders specifically for like the officer positions. Again, I'm going to create a elections transition continuity binder because we thought it was just like go down to the bank, and then they gave us a bunch of rules to wait, and it was a little bit of scrambling. So that Claire and Andrew and then Dennis and myself, I want to see if we could come up with continuity binders. I believe like the chair and the secretary's positions are probably going to be the most intense out of all of that. So I was kind of hoping to work with you, Claire, on those.
On the continuity binders?
Yeah, but just the specific to the chair and the secretary's positions.
Forgive me for not remembering exactly who, but wasn't there like a specific ad hoc committee working on continuity binders last board?
It was the person who was working on the continuity binder was Gail, but from the documentation that I saw, it wasn't for the officers' positions. It was just like a handbook for each of the at-large for the whole board themselves.
Okay, I have suggestions about how we might go about each board member's or each officer's continuity binder / responsibilities, but let's talk offline about that.
Love it. Dan, did you want to put in anything? You did? And then safety on the upcoming events. Like Claire said, there's going to be a lot of traffic. Remember, a lot of people are from out of town. Something that I did want to warn people, if you're walking around town, we've heard of 3 to 4 different cases of people being hit with paintballs. So be careful out there and just pay attention because it's going to be kind of crazy. The credit cards. I know there was a few board members who were really, really afraid of speaking on the credit cards, but it's not that big of a deal. So basically with our credit cards, same kind of continuity. Dan and myself will be receiving credit cards as the chair and the vice chair. We do not have access to the mailbox, the PO box. The only person who has access to that is the overview, which is the treasurer. The treasurer doesn't have access to the credit card, and the bookkeeper doesn't have access to the credit cards, and nobody has access to the cards or the PO box. Is there any questions on that? Wait, hold on, I'm gonna stop my. Okay, awesome. And advertising for volunteers. I think I really hate to disturb Doriandra right now because she is like on a crunch time to get things done. And so I might just go ahead and see, look at Sarah Grace's contract to see if we can ask her to write some stuff up. But again, we need volunteers to help us. So get the word out in the community, you know, if anybody needs help, please help us. And then I have for the board meeting, is there any questions about that?
Not a question, but a comment.
Yeah.
I've found in my past involvement with nonprofits that when you're asking for volunteers, it's more helpful to ask for exactly what you need, and Google Forms go a long way. You know, I or Sarah Grace or whoever has the time and expertise can set up a Google form fairly easily, just saying, hey, you want to get involved? This is what we do. This is who we're looking for. Send us a message.
I love it.
More stuff we can talk about offline.
Sounds good. And then for the board meeting coming up, just to let the community know that we are reconvening in September. We still will have our board meetings, but as far as the general meeting, we're gonna go ahead and just try to focus on the internal issues that we're having, as you guys can tell, and our communications and stuff. Does anybody have anything that they wanna, I know that Andrew wanted to put something on the agenda for the board meeting. With Jen, did you want to put something on the agenda?
No, I wanted to go back to the reconvene situation. Just to
Okay.
note that it is in the charter that we only need to meet quarterly, 4 times a year. And traditionally, since I've been part of the board, the community, it's August is off for all of them. So we are still going to have board meetings. We're just going to perform the board and not the general meeting in July. And as tradition has it, we will take off August, except the board meeting.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, at next week's board meeting, I would like to give an update on the history project. And I believe Anand will be putting a motion on about a presentation from El Rapper from the Health and Safety Committee. Correct, Anand?
About LRAP, but more importantly about the, well, this might be a separate thing. I remembered one of the things that we had tried to do, but we didn't have time for last time, was you wanted to get some authority to pursue the issue having to do with the toxic plume coming out of the rail yard.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
I can give you an update on that next week too.
Okay, that'd be great.
So that'll be,
So 2 items, the history project and the pollution.
sounds good. And then maybe Dan will have an update for the Head Start. Or hopefully they won't. They won't.
Yeah, I'll have something to report, at least something to report by then.
Okay, sounds good. All righty. Is there anything else? I think we're kind of like a little ahead of schedule here, but we all good? Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming, and you have a great night, and I'll see the board members next week, and Stephen, and have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience, everybody.
Thank you.